I've been watching you since you walked in, so don't pretend you're just shopping. People like you don't browse this section unless you're up to something. Put whatever you took back right now before this becomes a bigger problem. The words came out of Gwen Porter before Tamara Holt even had the chance to finish adjusting the handle of her shopping cart. Gwen, a 30-year-old supervisor with a sharp tone and a habit of assuming the worst, planted herself directly in front of Tamara as if blocking an intruder. She spoke loudly, her voice cutting through the aisle with an authority she believed she had earned. And she did not slow down. I'm not going to say it again, she continued, leaning closer. Empty your pockets or show me what you slid into that cart. Tamara, a 43-year-old woman with a calm, discerning presence, stood still, hands resting lightly on the cart's handle. She did not snap back. She did not flinch. She simply looked at Gwen with a steady patience that suggested she had weathered storms far bigger than this one. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and even. I haven't taken anything. Gwen scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. Oh please. You always say that. Every single time. You think I don't know the pattern? You wander in, you drift around the pricier aisles like you're studying them, then you try to slip out when you think no one's watching. She pointed at the cart again. So let's stop pretending. Behind them, Michael Rowan stiffened. Michael, a thoughtful 20-something cashier who often avoided conflict, had followed at a distance when he noticed Gwen tailing the shopper in red. He did not speak, not yet. But the moment Gwen's finger jabbed into the air, something in his chest tightened. He hovered a few feet away, unsure whether he had the right or the courage to intervene. Tamara kept her composure. Her silence wasn't fear. It was control. A measured breath. A pause that seemed to unsettle Gwen more than any argument would have. When Tamara finally did reply, she repeated the same steady words. I haven't taken anything. Gwen leaned in even closer. You know what makes this worse? The attitude. That cool little act you're trying to pull. Like you're above this. Like you're not supposed to be questioned. Her voice rose again. Everyone in this store has to follow the rules. Including you. A few shoppers slowed their steps. They didn't stare outright, but they lingered. Half-turned heads. Sidelong glances. A couple whispered quietly, unsure whether to keep going or stay and watch. The tension in the aisle grew tight, thick, unspoken, like a crowd bracing for the next shove. Tamara stood her ground. She didn't fold her arms. She didn't raise her chin. Her strength wasn't postured, it was lived in, quiet, steady. And Gwen hated that. You know what? Gwen said. I don't buy a single word coming out of your mouth. Not one. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to step aside right now and let me check that cart. Tamara didn't move. You don't have the right to do that. Gwen barked out a laugh. Oh, but I do. Because I'm the supervisor here, and when someone is acting suspicious, I have every right to investigate. She pointed to Tamara's dress. Bright red, elegant, effortlessly put together. You come in dressed like that, trying to look fancy, trying to look like you belong, but I see through the show. You're not fooling me. Michael winced. His hands curled briefly at his sides, then loosened. He wanted to step in. He wanted to say something. But Gwen was his superior, and every instinct in him warned him to keep still. Yet every second he stayed silent felt wrong. Tamara drew a slow, quiet breath. She looked at Gwen the way someone might look at a child throwing a tantrum in public. Not with anger, but with a controlled patience that made Gwen bristle even more. Ma'am, Tamara said softly, I am simply shopping. Oh, stop with the act, Gwen snapped. You don't talk like a shopper. You talk like someone hiding something. That's why I've been following you. And you know what? I noticed every little move you made. Gwen pointed again. The way you circled around the electronics aisle twice? Suspicious. The way you paused by the glass display case? Suspicious. The way you took a picture of that shelf? Very suspicious. Tamara met her eyes. I took a picture because the product label was smudged and I needed to check the model number. Sure you did, Gwen sneered. That's what thieves say when they're scouting the layout. She took a step closer, invading Tamara's space. Hand me your phone. Tamara shook her head once. No. Gwen straightened up in exaggerated disbelief. So you refuse to cooperate with store security? That's what you're admitting right now. Michael took a step forward, then hesitated. Gwen? His voice wavered. Maybe she. Gwen spun on him. Michael, stay out of this. I have it under control. He nodded, though his stomach twisted with unease. Gwen turned back to Tamara. You know, people like you always think you can slip through without consequences. But not today. Not while I'm on shift. More shoppers gathered at the ends of the aisle, careful not to look too obvious. Their faces revealed mixed emotions: shock, discomfort, sympathy, uncertainty. They didn't know the truth, but they recognized humiliation when they saw it. Some murmured to each other. Some frowned at Gwen. Some simply stood frozen, unsure what to believe. Tamara felt all of it. The tension. The whispers. The quiet edge of embarrassment. But she held herself steady, her composure untouched. What would you do in this moment? The question rose quietly in her mind, heavy and human, as she held on to her dignity. If someone treated you like you had no worth? And somewhere beneath that thought drifted another quiet voice, one that rose from the tense stillness in the aisle. If you believe that everyone deserves respect, then you already know why this moment matters. Gwen jabbed her finger again, repeating her demand. Step aside. No. I'm not asking any more. Tamara didn't move. Gwen's voice grew louder. Do I need to call security? Because I'll do it. I'll drag every manager in this building over here if I have to. You are not leaving this aisle until I inspect that cart. Michael swallowed hard. His heart pounded, his conscience twisted. He knew something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And still, fear held him in place. Tamara met Gwen's glare with a calm that defied the rising storm. Her eyes didn't flicker. Her voice didn't shake. Call whoever you need, she said gently. I'm not hiding anything. Gwen rolled her eyes dramatically. Of course you're not. That's exactly what someone hiding something would say. The tension peaked. The aisle felt still and full at the same time, even though no sensory detail had yet been described, just the weight of unresolved conflict pressing down on everyone present. Then Tamara's phone rang. A clear, crisp tone. Confident. Professional. Distinct. Gwen smirked. Oh, so you can show me the phone when it benefits you. Tamara answered it calmly, as if she were not being accused in front of strangers. Hello. A voice on the other end spoke loudly enough for nearby shoppers to hear. Tamara Holt? Congratulations again on your upcoming role. The board is eager for Monday's announcement. We wanted to confirm that you'll be visiting the store today as planned. Gwen froze. The shoppers stopped whispering. Michael's eyes widened. The voice continued warmly. You will make an extraordinary CEO. We're excited to introduce you as our new leader. Tamara slowly lowered the phone. The entire aisle fell silent. The silence that followed the call felt like the ground had shifted under everyone, yet nothing in Tamara's posture changed. She stood exactly as she had moments earlier, hands resting lightly on the cart's handle, gaze steady, breath calm. Gwen, however, looked as if the world had tilted in a direction she had never prepared for. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed, then opened again, but no words came out. Michael watched her with a kind of stunned stillness, as if he had finally understood the full weight of what had just happened. Tamara did not rush to fill the silence. She simply ended the call with a soft, "Thank you, I'll be there shortly," and returned the phone to her purse with the same steady grace she'd held through every accusation hurled at her. Only then did she look at Gwen. The look was not triumphant, not smug, not cruel. It was level, dignified, almost weary. The quiet kind of strength that reveals far more than anger ever could. Gwen tried again to speak, but her voice caught. She swallowed hard. You're the, she stammered. You're the new, but the words refused to form. Tamara didn't answer. She didn't need to. The entire aisle had heard the call. The shoppers who had gathered now exchanged glances with one another, some wide-eyed, some suddenly looking down in shame for having assumed the worst. Others sighed, not out of relief, but out of the sting of witnessing something that had cut too close to the reality they lived with every day. Michael exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. His chest loosened. A knot he hadn't realized he'd been carrying seemed to unravel as he stepped forward. And still, he hesitated, almost as if waiting for permission. Tamara turned her head slightly toward him, a small, quiet acknowledgement that eased his nerves enough for him to speak. "Miss Holt," he said softly, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Gwen's head whipped toward him. "Michael," her voice cracked. "Not now." But Michael didn't back down this time. "You shouldn't have talked to her that way," he said, the words trembling but firm. "She didn't deserve that." Gwen's face went pale. "I was doing my job," she insisted, though even she didn't sound convinced. She was acting suspicious. That's all. Anyone would have done the same." Tamara finally spoke, her voice calm. "Suspicious," she echoed, letting the word settle between them. "Because I took a picture of a label? That's not—" Gwen's voice faltered again. You know what I meant." Tamara held her gaze. "Yes, I do." Gwen stared at her, breathing unevenly, thoughts scrambling for a defense that no longer existed. She glanced around the aisle, hoping someone, anyone, might back her up. But the shoppers who had lingered looked away. Some shook their heads. A few whispered things she couldn't quite hear but could definitely feel. For the first time she looked frightened. Not because she feared Tamara, but because she feared the truth of what she had done so publicly. Michael stepped closer to Tamara. "If you want me to call someone," he said, "or get a manager or anything, I will." Tamara shook her head. "No need." Her voice remained soft, almost gentle. "I believe the right people already know." The tension in the aisle didn't release all at once. It lingered, slow and painful, as if the moment itself needed time to understand what had shifted. Shoppers gradually drifted away, some with lingering looks of disbelief, others with quiet pride at how gracefully Tamara had held herself. Gwen tried to recover, smoothing her hair back with a trembling hand. "We can move past this," she said, though her tone was hollow. "It was a misunderstanding. That's all. No harm done." Tamara's expression didn't change. "You followed me," she said softly. "You watched me without reason. You accused me. You demanded to search me. And you did all of this in front of your customers." She let the truth sit there, untouched. "Is that what you call a misunderstanding?" Gwen blinked fast, her breath uneven. I just thought." "Yes," Tamara said gently. "You did." There was no anger in her tone. No bite. No bitterness. Just truth, delivered with the kind of composure that strips away every excuse. Gwen took a step back, unsure of what to do with her hands, her voice, her own presence in the aisle. She looked at Michael as if expecting him to bail her out. But he remained still, eyes lowered, unwilling to help her rewrite what had just happened. Tamara began pushing her cart forward, slow and steady. For a moment, Gwen scrambled to follow her, but she froze halfway through the motion, as if realizing she no longer had the right to trail behind the woman she had just tried to humiliate. "Wait," Gwen said, her voice breaking. "Please. Don't report this. I can't." Her breaths came short and sharp. "I can't lose this job." Tamara paused only briefly. "Your job," she said, "is not in my hands." Gwen exhaled shakily, misinterpreting the statement as mercy. Tamara continued. "It's in your behavior. And today the entire store saw it." Gwen's knees weakened. The reality landed with a force she couldn't deflect. She squeezed her hands together, but nothing about the gesture steadied her. Michael stepped toward Tamara again, voice gentler this time. "Is there anything you need help with? Anything at all?" Tamara offered him a small, graceful nod. "You can walk with me," she said quietly. "If you'd like." It wasn't a command. It wasn't a test. It was an invitation to stand on the side of what was right. And Michael, who had spent far too long feeling powerless, accepted it with a quiet, steady yes. They walked down the aisle together. Gwen stood behind, trembling in place, watching the woman she had just tried to belittle walk forward with unshaken dignity. And somewhere in the back of her mind she already knew, consequences would follow. For anyone reading this moment, think about your own role in scenes like this. Think about where you would stand. And if you believe that standing up for dignity matters, hit subscribe and stay with stories that push for fairness, humanity, and truth. Tamara continued forward, slow and measured, with a quiet power that needed no announcement. The storm she carried inside was controlled, not suppressed. And the revelation that would soon unfold would change the course of the entire store. The silence after Gwen's pleading hung in the air like something fragile that refused to break. Tamara didn't move, didn't rush, didn't fill the tension with explanations. She simply stood there with the same quiet strength she had carried through the entire confrontation. Michael watched her in awe, realizing only now how much restraint she had needed to show in order not to crumble under the weight of public humiliation. That was when he finally understood. Strength was not loud. Strength was choosing calm when every nerve begged for defense. As Tamara pushed her cart forward, Gwen took a trembling step after her. "Ms. Holt, please," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You can't let them fire me. You can't let this ruin my life." Tamara stopped and turned. Her face remained gentle, but her eyes carried the truth Gwen had tried to ignore. "I'm not ruining your life," she said softly. "Your choices did that." Gwen's breath hitched. "I didn't know who you were. If I had known." Tamara raised a hand. "That's exactly the point." Shoppers who had lingered pretended to browse, but their ears remained tuned to every syllable. Some wore guilt on their faces, realizing how quickly they had believed Gwen's accusations simply because the scenario felt familiar to them. And some, the quieter ones, stood frozen under the weight of witnessing something deeply wrong, wondering what they would have done if they had been closer. Michael stepped forward now, not hiding behind hesitation anymore. "Gwen," he said, "you didn't just misread the situation. You made it what it was." Gwen shook her head, tears gathering. "I was trying to protect the store." "By following and cornering someone who was just shopping?" Michael asked. "You weren't protecting anything." Gwen's eyes flicked from Michael to Tamara, desperate, searching for a way out. But she found none. Tamara's voice remained soft. "People deserve respect before you know their status. Not after." She let that settle, neither cruel nor forgiving, just true. Her phone buzzed again. A message flashed across the screen. "Rochelle." The timing brought a hush through the aisle as Tamara read the text. "I'm here. Near the front. Just arrived." The moment Gwen saw the name, her face collapsed into panic. Rochelle entered the aisle seconds later, walking with a calm certainty that made the air tighten. "Tamara," she said warmly, "I'm so sorry this happened. The board wanted me to check in with you right away." The contrast between the warmth Rochelle offered and the cold suspicion Gwen had shown earlier was enough to make several bystanders shift uncomfortably. Rochelle's eyes moved to Gwen. "You're the supervisor?" Gwen swallowed. "Ah, yes. But I didn't." "I've heard enough," Rochelle interrupted gently, not harsh but final. The sound of those words rippled through the aisle. Gwen's breath wavered as her gaze fell toward the floor. No loud scolding followed. No dramatic reprimand. What made the moment powerful was the quiet recognition of truth. Tamara didn't smirk. She didn't relish the reversal. She simply stood there in her calm dignity, and the scene spoke for itself. Michael stepped closer to Tamara again. "If you don't mind," he said softly, "I'd like to walk with you. I think that's the least I can do." Tamara nodded. "Walk with me." They moved forward together, with Gwen behind them, frozen in the consequences she had created. In that hallway of stillness and shifting breaths, the truth pressed on everyone watching. This was how power revealed itself, with calm, not noise. As they approached the employee area, something stirred in the air, an unspoken question that followed each step. What would any of us have done in this moment if we'd been standing beside her? And for the people reading or listening, the choice lingered deeper. If you're someone who believes humiliation should never be a normal response to bias, stay with stories that challenge what we accept as everyday behavior. Rochelle guided Tamara into a small office, then closed the door behind them. Inside, with the noise of the store shut out, the emotional weight Tamara had held so tightly finally had room to breathe. She exhaled quietly, a soft release that hinted at the exhaustion beneath her poise. Rochelle studied her. "You handled that with more restraint than most leaders I know." Tamara lowered herself into a chair. "Restraint," she murmured, "is a skill I learned early." Rochelle sat opposite her. You shouldn't have had to learn it at all. Michael lingered in the doorway until Tamara offered him a small gesture to sit. He took the chair gently, still trying to understand the strength she embodied. You saw everything, Rochelle said to him. Was it as bad as it sounded? Michael nodded slowly. Yes. She followed her, cornered her, accused her, loudly. He paused. And Miss Holt stayed calm the entire time. Rochelle looked back at Tamara. The board needs to know exactly what happened here. And they will. She drew a slow breath. But first, I need to ask what you want. Tamara thought for a long moment. I want accountability, she said. Not punishment born from anger, but accountability that teaches. Accountability that protects the people who come after me. Rochelle nodded. You'll have that. The room settled into a thoughtful quiet. Outside, the store murmured with the sound of customers and employees returning to their routines, though nothing in that building felt the same. The story had changed the air. Michael ran a hand over his face. I'll never forget today, he said quietly. I don't think anyone will. Tamara looked at him with the same calm strength she had held in the aisle. Good, she replied. Memory is where change begins. Rochelle checked her phone. The leadership team is gathering. It's time. Tamara rose. Michael followed. And for the first time all day, Tamara felt something shift. Not a victory, not satisfaction. Something deeper. A reminder that justice did not always roar. Sometimes it simply walked forward in red, with quiet hands on a cart, refusing to shrink. As they stepped out of the room and into the hallway that would soon bring the final reveal, the question rose again. Not loud, not dramatic, but honest. Would you stand silent in a moment like this, or would you stand up? If stories like this remind you of the importance of courage, keep following them, because the world changes one witness at a time. This time, Tamara wasn't walking toward humiliation. She was walking toward truth. And everyone in the store was about to see it. Rochelle faced Gwen with a calm firmness that didn't need to shout to be heard. The shift in the atmosphere was unmistakable. Everyone nearby felt it. The same supervisor who had puffed herself up with false authority earlier now stood trembling, realizing every assumption she had made was collapsing under the truth. Tamara didn't need to speak to make the moment powerful. Her presence alone revealed more than any accusation Gwen had thrown at her. Gwen Porter, Rochelle said, you are suspended effective immediately. The words landed with precision. No dramatics. No shouting. Just certainty. Gwen staggered back a step. Suspended? Her voice crumbled around the word. Pending review, Rochelle added, your employment is likely to be terminated. Gwen's eyes darted around, desperate for someone, anyone, to intervene. Her gaze landed on Tamara with a kind of fear she had not shown earlier. Please, she whispered, don't let them do this. I didn't know who you were. I swear I didn't. Tamara looked at her calmly. That's exactly the problem, she said. Respect shouldn't come after you learn someone's title. Gwen's lip quivered. I didn't mean. You meant every assumption you made about me, Tamara replied, not harsh, not vengeful, just truthful. And you made them with confidence. Several employees shifted uncomfortably. A few looked at the floor. A few wiped tiny breaths from their lips as if the room had gotten too close. Michael, who had stayed near Tamara's side, stepped forward now. She wasn't suspicious, he said quietly but clearly. You were. Gwen shut her eyes as if trying to block out the words. I was doing my job. No, Tamara said. You were abusing your power. The security officer approached then, not aggressive, just doing his part. Gwen turned to him with wide, frightened eyes. Do I really have to go with you? He nodded gently. Let's gather your things. As Gwen walked away, shoulders shaking, the store fell into a hush that wasn't comfortable. It wasn't relief. It was the uneasy truth of consequence settling into the aisles, weaving itself through the silence of people who had witnessed more than they wanted to admit. Michael looked at Tamara with a quiet breath of admiration. You handled all of that with grace. Tamara didn't respond right away. She closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. Grace, she said softly, is sometimes the only thing I have left to choose. Rochelle motioned for Tamara and Michael to follow her toward the front of the store. Employees parted as they walked, not because they were ordered to, but because they had seen something today that demanded respect. A few offered small nods. A few gave apologetic glances. Others simply stepped back, silently absorbing the weight of what had unfolded. At the front, a small cluster of managers waited, looking uneasy, unsure of how to greet the woman who had just been revealed as their new CEO. The tall manager from earlier swallowed hard as Tamara approached. "Miss Holt," he said, we didn't know." "That's why it mattered," Tamara replied gently. Rochelle cleared her throat. "Before we address the leadership announcement, I want everyone to understand why this moment should stay with you. Bias is not a small thing. It becomes big the moment it goes unchecked." The managers nodded. Some instinctively stepped closer, wanting to listen. Others straightened their posture as if preparing for something significant. Tamara studied their faces. She didn't want fear. She wanted awareness. "Earlier today," she began, her voice calm but carrying far, "I was followed, accused, and spoken to in a way that no customer, no employee, no person should ever be spoken to." A few employees winced. "It happened," she continued, "without provocation. Without cause. Without reason." She paused long enough for the truth to breathe. "And it happened because of how I look." No one dared look away. "For those of you who watched," she said, "ask yourselves honestly, what kept you silent? Fear? Uncertainty? Habit?" Her gaze swept the room. "Silence is a choice. But so is courage." Michael swallowed hard, feeling her words strike his memory of hesitation. "And if you're listening to this moment," she continued, "ask yourself where you stand when someone's dignity is on the line. If you believe respect should never be conditional, stay with stories that challenge the world we walk in." The employees listened, fully present now. Rochelle took a step forward. "Effective immediately, Tamara Holt will begin her transition into the role of CEO. Today proved why her leadership is not just needed, it's overdue." Another hush. Then a slow ripple of nods spread through the group. One employee raised her hand timidly. "Miss Holt, I'm sorry. I should have said something." Tamara offered her a gentle nod. "Then let it guide you next time. That's all I ask." Michael looked at her with something close to awe. "You're changing this place already?" he murmured. "I'm not here to change the store," Tamara said. "I'm here to change the culture." Rochelle smiled softly. "And we're ready." Employees stood straighter. Some with pride. Some with hope. Some with a sense of relief they couldn't quite name. And as the final echoes of Gwen's departure faded down the hallway, the truth stood where she once did. Power isn't loud. It isn't cruel. It isn't forceful. Real power is quiet dignity refusing to bow. And today, everyone in that store had witnessed what it looked like. The leadership team drifted back to their stations slowly, as if the ground beneath the store had shifted and they weren't sure how to stand on it yet. Tamara remained at the front of the room with Rochelle and Michael, her posture relaxed but steady, the kind of calm that came not from empty confidence but from years of learning how to choose peace even when the world tried to shake it from her hands. The tension from earlier had not vanished. It lingered faintly in the corners of her shoulders, in the memory of Gwen's voice echoing accusations she had not earned. But the room now carried something different too: recognition. Respect. Something that felt like the beginning of change. Michael stayed close, still processing the speed with which the day had transformed. "Ms. Holt," he said with a quiet breath, "if I'm honest, I still can't believe what just happened. One minute you were a shopper getting accused of stealing, and the next," he shook his head in disbelief, "you're leading the whole company." Tamara smiled faintly. The truth has a way of catching up, no matter how long it's pushed aside. Rochelle folded her arms, her expression already shifting into leadership mode. "The board wants the official announcement to go live in a few hours," she said. "But they agreed, you should make the first statement here to the staff who witnessed the situation firsthand." Tamara nodded. "They deserve context," she said. "And clarity. And reassurance," Rochelle added. "Employees need to know that change is coming from the top and it's coming fast." Tamara took a slow breath, letting the weight of responsibility settle without shaking her. Then let's speak with them. They made their way toward the small break area where several employees had gathered after hearing there would be another announcement. Conversations halted the moment Tamara stepped inside, but the silence wasn't fearful or tense. It was attentive, expectant. People looked at her not with confusion or suspicion now, but with a soft caution, like they were ready to listen but afraid of what truth might demand of them. Tamara stood before them, hands clasped loosely. "I know today has been unexpected for many of you," she began. "And I know some of you watched things happen in these aisles that didn't feel right." A few employees lowered their eyes. One or two nodded very slightly. "When I was confronted earlier," she continued, "I wasn't just dealing with an accusation. I was dealing with a judgment about who I was before I even spoke." Her voice was calm, but the honesty of it traveled deeper than volume ever could. "No one should face that," she said. "Not here. Not anywhere." A young employee leaned against a counter, her arms wrapped around herself as if holding discomfort she didn't quite know how to release. Tamara noticed. She didn't call attention to it. She simply continued. "It's important to ask ourselves," she said, "when we see something wrong, do we speak up or do we wait for someone else to move first?" She paused. "And for anyone listening or reading this moment, ask yourself too. In a situation like this, where would you stand? If dignity matters to you, keep paying attention to stories that challenge what we choose to ignore." A quiet ripple moved through the room. Rochelle stepped beside her. "This company is going to change," she said. "And the change begins today." A murmur of agreement rose, soft, hesitant, but sincere. One man near the back, older and carrying years of retail fatigue in his posture, lifted a hand. "Ms. Holt, when you were being accused earlier, you didn't raise your voice. You didn't defend yourself. How did you stay calm?" Tamara met his eyes gently. "Because I've learned that if I match someone's bias with anger, they'll only use it to justify the way they treated me. But if I meet it with calm, the truth has room to be seen." A few employees exhaled as if something heavy had just settled into place. Rochelle leaned forward slightly. "And let me be clear," she said, "Tamara didn't owe anyone calm. She chose it. There's a difference." Michael cleared his throat quietly. "I wish I had acted sooner when I saw what Gwen was doing." Tamara turned to him. "You acted when you found your courage," she said. "Next time you'll find it sooner." He nodded, chastened but grateful. Rochelle checked her phone. "The corporate communications team is ready for your approval," she said. "We should move upstairs to finalize it." Tamara agreed, but before she left the room she addressed the employees one last time. "I want each of you to know something. I don't take this position lightly. And I don't step into it for the title. I step into it because the world still needs leaders who don't look away from injustice, whether it's loud or quiet." Her voice softened. "And no matter your role in this store, you are part of what comes next." Employees nodded. Some with pride. Some with relief. Some with the subtle shame of realizing they had stayed silent when they shouldn't have. But in their expressions Tamara saw something more, the possibility of growth. Rochelle gestured toward the front. "Let's head to the upstairs offices." As they walked down the aisle, Michael followed behind them, still replaying every moment in his mind. The confrontation. His hesitation. The reveal. The shift. He felt changed and he didn't want the feeling to fade. When they reached the manager's staircase, Tamara paused briefly at the bottom. She glanced around the store, the shelves, the aisles, the customers passing through, all appearing so ordinary now though nothing felt ordinary anymore. "This place will be different," she murmured. Rochelle looked at her. "Because of you." Tamara considered that, her expression thoughtful. "Because of all of us who decide that dignity isn't optional." They climbed the stairs together. The store hummed with a new energy, one woven from truth, consequence, and a quiet hope that things would not return to the way they were before. Upstairs, the door to the executive suite clicked open, and the future waited on the other side. The upstairs office was quiet in a way that felt almost unreal after everything the day had held. Tamara stepped inside first, her presence soft but commanding, her breath steadying as she took in the neat desk, the sleek screens, the clean lines of a workspace meant for leadership. It was not officially hers yet, not until the announcement went public, but she walked into it with the calm certainty of someone who had earned every inch of ground she stood on. Rochelle followed behind her, checking messages from the board. Michael lingered at the doorway, unsure if he belonged in a room like this but unwilling to walk away from the moment. Tamara set her bag on the edge of the desk. For a brief second, she pressed her palms against the smooth surface, letting the quiet settle into her skin. It wasn't relief. Relief came when danger passed. This moment was something different, something closer to acknowledgement, as if she were allowing herself to feel the weight of what she'd endured and the quiet triumph of what she had reclaimed. Rochelle approached her. "The board is ready for a brief call," she said. "They want to move forward with the rollout tonight." Tamara nodded. "Let's proceed." Michael stepped forward hesitantly. "Miss Holt, I can wait outside if—" "No," Tamara said softly. "You can stay." The words anchored him in place. He had seen injustice unfold in front of him. He had hesitated. He had tried. And he had learned. Those three truths earned him more space in the room than he realized. Rochelle tapped the screen on the desk. The call connected. Several faces appeared, board members in polished home offices, a few managers from the company's headquarters, the communications director already preparing statements. They greeted Tamara with warmth and respect. Some congratulated her again. Some apologized for the timing of today's incident. All of them spoke with a tone that showed they understood exactly why her leadership mattered now more than ever. When the call ended, Rochelle closed the laptop and looked at Tamara with something almost like admiration. "It's official," she said. "In the next 2 hours, the entire company, and the public, will know you're stepping in as CEO." Tamara leaned back slightly in the chair, absorbing the moment without rushing it. "Thank you," she said, "for standing with me." "You've done more than earn it," Rochelle replied. "This company needed you long before this day." As they spoke, Michael stood quietly near the door, his hands clasped in front of him. Tamara turned her gaze toward him. "Michael," she said, "come sit." He obeyed, taking the chair across from her. "You've watched leadership today," she told him gently. "Not the title kind. The human kind." He nodded. I learned more today than I have in years." She studied him for a moment. "And what did you learn?" Michael swallowed, gathering his courage. "That silence can make harm worse. That being afraid of consequences doesn't erase responsibility. And that sometimes, dignity needs witnesses." His voice shook slightly. "And I want to be the kind of person who stands up the first time, not the second." A small, steady warmth moved through her expression. "You will be," she said. "Because you've already chosen to." Rochelle joined them at the small round table. "This company needs more people like that," she said. "People who don't just wait for change, they lean into it." Michael looked down, humbled. "I'm not perfect." "No one is," Tamara replied. "What matters is that you didn't hide once the truth became clear." He breathed out slowly. "Thank you." A quiet moment settled between them. A moment of reflection. A moment of truth. A moment that felt like the echo of everything the day had demanded of them. Then Rochelle glanced toward the glass window overlooking the store below. Employees moved through aisles again, organizing shelves, helping customers, cleaning up lingering signs of the chaos earlier. But the store felt different now. The air seemed to hold a sense of accountability, a sense of watching, a sense of learning. Rochelle spoke softly. "Do you want to go back down before you leave? Some of the employees are still shaken. Your presence might help settle things." Tamara nodded slowly. "Yes. I want to walk through it again." They left the office together. Tamara first, Rochelle beside her, Michael following close behind. Their steps echoed down the quiet stairwell. As they reached the bottom, the hum of the store washed over them again. Ordinary sounds layered over an extraordinary day. Shoppers glanced toward Tamara as she walked past. Some looked apologetic. Some nodded with respect. Others simply stepped aside, sensing something different about her presence. Something gentle, steady, and unmistakably strong. The same aisle where Gwen had cornered her earlier now felt like an open road she was reclaiming one step at a time. Michael slowed as they passed the spot where he'd first noticed Gwen following her. "It feels different now," he said quietly. Tamara looked at him. "Because you see it differently." He nodded. "I won't forget the way she talked to you. Or the way everyone watched. Or how you never lost your calm." "Calm," Tamara said softly, "isn't the absence of hurt. It's the decision to not let someone else's fear define you." They reached the front of the store again. The employees who were still gathered offered small, respectful nods, a kind of silent apology, a kind of recognition. One young man approached timidly. "Miss Holt, I just want to say, today opened my eyes. I never realized how easy it is to assume someone's wrong before you know anything about them." Tamara placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Awareness is the first step. What matters is what you do with it." He nodded, his chest tightening with emotion. Tamara looked at the group. "I hope all of you carry today forward. Not the embarrassment. Not the fear. The lesson. Carry the reminder that every person who walks through these doors deserves respect before anything else." The employees listened in a way they hadn't earlier. Not just hearing, absorbing. "And if you ever catch yourself hesitating," she said, "ask what you'd want someone to do if it were you standing alone in an aisle being judged." Her gaze swept the room. "That question will guide you to the right answer." A hush fell, sincere and thoughtful. "And for anyone who sees this moment," she added gently, "ask yourself too, would you step forward or would you stay silent? If you believe dignity isn't optional, stay close to stories that keep that truth alive." Rochelle nodded with quiet pride. "I think we're done here." Tamara gave a final glance around the store, reclaiming the space once more with the simple steadiness of her presence. Then she turned toward the doors. As they stepped outside into the cooler evening air, Michael exhaled as if shedding the day from his lungs. "Miss Holt," he said, "I'll never forget this." Tamara looked at him with soft strength. "Then let it make you better." Michael nodded, a quiet promise shaping itself inside him. Rochelle unlocked her car. "You ready for what comes next?" she asked. Tamara paused, feeling the night air settle around her. She straightened her shoulders, elegant, grounded, unshaken. "I was born ready for this," she said. And the truth was undeniable. Earlier she had walked the aisles as a woman humiliated. Now she walked them as a leader unbroken. Justice did not roar. It refused to bow. And neither did she.